Hello, and welcome to another playoff edition of Goalie Interference. The Golden Knights are flying 3-1, 3 straight wins, 2 of which happened up on the road in Winnipeg. Mike, what is up? How are you tonight?
What does it matter about what's up with me, Ken? You just went to the frozen tundra. You went to Canada. You got to see hockey up there. You give me the lowdown, man, because I think the folks saw they saw what they wanted to see here, man. Like, it's not like Vegas was hot out of the gate for either of those games, but boy, did they pour it on and make it happen. So tell us about your northern excursion. I just want to hear one thing outside the rink that was interesting and a second thing possibly, Ken, that you found to be somewhat intriguing or different up there north of the border.
Outside of the rink, I'm trying to think of that one. I'll give you the one that is something a little bit different that I noticed certainly in the rink, and that is everybody knows how much that pregame show and how wild the pregame show is for the Golden Knights. They cut the jet in half last time. Now a dragon is burning a jet, and there's flying.
It's a lot.
All sorts of stuff, and it's designed to get the crowd going. It's designed to be over the top and ridiculous, pulling the sword out of the stone, all that good stuff. It's wild how opposite what they do in Winnipeg is, yet how unbelievably effective it is. So they have their warm-ups, and their warm-ups are certainly not like the Golden Knights. There's no bells. It's not that loud. Their sound system's not that crazy. There's really not that many people in the building for warm-ups, so it's not anything all that exciting. But once they get off the ice, then kind of, they run a few videos and whatever. And then with 6 minutes the game 4, there was actually 7 minutes before the game, they put up a clock and they play what's basically like a 15-second long sounder that's like da 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 da, and it just does that for 7 straight minutes. And every minute they come on and say, we're 1 minute closer, get louder. And they try and pump them up more and more and more. And by the time it gets down to the final 30 seconds, that place is rocking. It is really cool and so opposite. It's just a clock and someone yelling at them, get going, compared to all of what they do in Vegas. And don't get me wrong, it is lit in Vegas when these games start. But it was really cool. And that building, I think the biggest difference I noticed in the building, though, is when the Golden Knights are going well, that building is silent. But the second the Jets turn it up and do something well, it gets really crazy. And you could feel that certainly in the third period of game 3. Obviously, they tie it. I'll stand by it. I think Rick Bowness blew that game, not calling timeout right after they scored that game-tying goal, because that place was electric. And you could tell the Golden Knights were angry and excited to get back out there. They go out 20 seconds, draw the penalty. I wrote an article about it. I think they won the game by having that penalty. Even though they didn't score on it, it settled them down. It gave them something to look forward to. And I thought it's completely avoidable by just using your timeout right there and letting the crowd continue to enjoy that moment. And they didn't do it, but here we are. In the end, I don't think any of it's going to matter because the Golden Knights have been the better team and the Jets are disintegrating.
Yeah, and I think that really, I don't want to write a team off for dead because crazier things have happened. But realistically, if you just look at the stats of these games, you're going to go, oh, it must have been pretty even. And in all honesty, when Vegas got through the first tough stretches of these games relatively unscathed, right? You just knew it was coming because the Jets don't have the manpower at this point to mess with this depth of Vegas. And, we went that whole second half of the year going, man, I hope they're healthy. I hope Vegas is healthy. They need to be there. And now we'll talk about this in a minute, but we're looking at a situation where Cassie's going to have to make a really hard lineup decision because he's got Will Carrier coming back because the team is healthy. And that's a huge key to this. That Jets team without Morrissey on the back end, and then as soon as Scheifele goes out, that's a lot of firepower out of the lineup that's been consistent this year, both of them. You're relying on guys like a Dubois, who honestly, it depends what his mood is. If he had enough poutine that day or whatever, right? Like he's fickle, man. Like he's somebody that you don't know what you're getting every night. And they're still missing, without Ehlers too, right? There's things that not there. It's also a case, though, where the systematic nature of Vegas, I think, is starting to cave in Winnipeg a little bit, because we sat here last week after that first game. And remember, Ken, I did say you got to stick to the process here, right? And and here's the reason why, because especially when you listen to Cassidy talk, it's just, yeah, you know what? We pre-scouted, we did everything we could, but you just don't know until you live it, right? And play against it. And I think that was part of the case of game one, that Vegas had a tough time shutting down, the rush game that they would take. They didn't really have a full grasp on what to expect from Winnipeg, even though they'd seen it on video. So I think the series has been pretty close on paper, but I think the emotional factor of it, Ken, and please disagree with me if you want to here, but I think Vegas has really, I'd say really since the middle part of that second game, controlled this series. And I think that directly goes with, I think it directly goes to Mark Stone in his game too, man.
Yeah, I mean, all of a sudden he started picking it up, and the decision to have a deeper lineup and play this kind of top 9 oriented lineup with your fourth line chipping in where you can and moving Barbashev down there potentially makes them a little bit better. I'm not sure that's necessarily the case, but I think the Jets kind of had their chances. There have been opportunities. They had a good swipe at the Golden Knights in period 1 of game 2. If they would have thrown that knockout punch, maybe it's 2-0, and maybe we are looking at something a little bit different. Then they get that second chance again here in game 3, where now all of a sudden they've come back from 3 goals. They have the opportunity with the crowd behind them, and Dubois hits the post. And at that point, Scheifele's not out. So they're in a position to then take another lead in the series, even more controlling this with overcoming a 3-goal deficit. And then, they score first in game 4, and they've got another opportunity. But every single step along the way, they've had to do it with less and less and less. You can't ignore the fact that they have a Norris candidate player that's out. He's as good, if not better, than Alex Pietrangelo. And Alex Pietrangelo has been terrific all season for the Golden Knights.
Different players, though. Different players.
He is, but he's been very impactful. He's been really important. He's a huge part of driving their offense. He's a huge part of offering them depth that they do do not have anymore, right?
Yeah.
Then you get a breakaway 2.5 minutes into game 4 with a crowd going nuts behind you still in the series, because Morrissey had not had a huge impact up to that moment. And not only does he blow the breakaway, shout out to Brossoit for stopping that and really stoning that thing, but then he trips and falls into the boards, and now Scheifele's out for the remainder of the game and potentially the remainder of the series. We don't know what happens with Ehlers. We don't know what's going on with Perfetti. They are breaking down right in front of our face, and I think a lot of that can be pointed directly at how hard it was for them to get in. Look at the Golden Knights last year. They fought and fought and fought to get in, and everyone thought, once they get in, it'll be perfectly fine if that happens. I'm not sure that would have been the case, and that's what happened to the Jets here. All credit to the Golden Knights, though, for each time those big haymakers have been there to be knocking them out or knocking them down or hurting them, the Golden Knights have dodged out of the way and then thrown one right back. Michael Amadio, the turnover caused in the offensive zone, they win the game in game 3. And then the 2 goals in 40
Plenty.
They've been there to take advantage of these moments and continue playing their game. And it has allowed their depth and their defensive depth, and really they've taken the goalies out of it. The goalies have not been an impact in this series at all, which was the number one concern we had coming in. So to me, yes, they have been emotionally better. I don't think the chances have been way better one way or the other. I don't think the game has been way better one way or the other, the game plan. It's just the Golden Knights, when they've had their opportunities to really grasp hold of the series, they've done it. And when the Jets have had them, the Golden Knights have gotten out of the way and either gotten a big save, gotten a big kill, made a big play, turned it back around. And that's been huge for them so far.
Yeah, and what's kind of amazed me is it hasn't always been like direct bounce back. Sometimes you're looking for things to happen like immediately after. It's almost been a delayed effect sometimes, right? Like they still had to get through the first period of what was game
Of
two or
game
three?
two.
Which one?
Yeah, game two.
Game
Yeah,
two, right?
for
Like
sure. Game two. Yes.
you're down 1-0 for half of that first period, but it didn't really seem to bother him.
And that's
And
a period Bressois was big. Like that's been the
and
best
he
goalie
was.
period in the series, right?
Yeah, but I don't think he's been a game stealer. He's just been very good, which is what you need under
He's been
Cassidy's system. And
Laurent
he's done
Bressois. He's been
everything
himself. Yeah.
exactly. Like I'm pumped for the guy. He's beating his old team and they're building too. Like that's really cool. And
And they're
I
chanting,
think
"You're a
it's
backup" or "backup goalie" at him. Yeah.
yeah, and he's going like this the whole time,
Yeah.
right? He just
And
big middle
I don't
finger
think
to him,
like
but
he's
he doesn't
not a
think
guy that I don't that doesn't lift his game, that doesn't change anything. I think if anything, it's helping the rest of the guys around him to help. Like, yeah, fuck you guys.
it's not none of
This
that
is
shit
stupid. This
matters.
is whatever.
None of that
Right.
shit matters unless you're an
Right.
overthinker. Bressois does not strike me as a person who lets things affect him like that. If he does, he
No,
never
he's
shows
not.
it outwardly.
He's
I
not.
can say this though about his game, even the growth in it from when I first played against him. Like he's definitely matured in how he handles situations. Like he used to have the knack was that one goal, two goals, three goals, like it would just go off a cliff. And he's found a mental resilience to his game that I really admire. The couple things here that I think about the Golden Knights that have been great is that they're forcing turnovers, they're forcing the Jets to take penalties because they're moving their feet. No matter how hard Winnipeg's checking Eichel and Stone, they're just turning and going the other direction. And with Winnipeg being this thin of a lineup as they are, they can't they have to keep running Vegas's top guys, but they can't keep running Vegas's top guys.
Right.
Like how do you counteract? Like Jack Eichel's been great, man. Honestly, like I think he's done a really nice job in these playoffs. Like, and Stone, like I say, has at least found that first game was garbage. He'll tell you that too. And then the second game, boom, he found it. He got it back. Power plays improved with him. But if they're going to just check those guys as hard as they can and the rest of the crew, like Winnipeg's going to keep chasing. They're going to keep turning pucks over. They're not going to be in position. And that is a fault of a bonus team when they try too hard. You lose your structure, I will say this though, man, like remember last game I texted you guys right off the bat that Colasar I think he hit Pionk right off the bat. I think that's who it was, but holy shit, freight train central, man. And I just went, whoa. And don't think for a second that the Golden Knights weren't amped to play in their home province of Manitoba here, folks.
I mean, there's been a lot of impact from players that have been from there or around there or drafted or whatever, played a lot of time. Like there's no doubt. And they've played it down a little bit from time to time with guys talking about it or whatever. But like, there's a lot of family members in the building. There's a lot of people playing in front of friends, playing in front of a crowd that in Brett Howden's case, he had been a part of watching the Golden Knights play against the Jets in 2018. Like, he was wearing white in that crowd. It's going to mean something to him. And shout out to Mark Stone for getting him that second opportunity after he put one on a platter and Howden blew it.
He missed it.
And he gives him another opportunity. I do want to touch on physicality a little bit and kind of the way the Jets have gone about this series and what the Golden Knights have done to respond inside of it. But first, I want to tell you that this episode of Goalie Interference and all episodes of Goalie Interference are brought to you by the Jimerson Law Firm. Jimerson Law Firm is one of Las Vegas' preeminent law firms specializing in high-stakes business, civil, and family litigation. When winning matters, 3 straight in the playoffs, that is never a bad thing. Very rarely do you win 3 straight in the playoffs. Golden Knights have actually done it a few times in their history, and hopefully the 3-1 thing isn't going to catch back up because it hasn't been so good the last 3 times we've been 3-1. But when winning matters, seek out the Jimerson Law Firm. As always, shout out to the Jimerson Law Firm for sponsoring episode 30 of this show this season. So today, and I will give Granger from The Athletic credit on this because he just wrote a story about it, and he was kind of poking the players a little bit to talk about it. It's very clear in this series that, A, the Jets are trying to hurt Mark Stone. I don't think that that's horribly surprising. I don't think that any other team would not do that. I think every team the Golden Knights play throughout the entirety of the postseason is going to do that. I don't find it dirty. I don't find it cheap. I just think this is the world we live
It's
in,
playoff
which
hockey,
is
man.
that guy has been hurt. You got to try, and he's really friggin' good. But the bigger piece of it to me is inside, like outside of that, and it's been a couple times that has happened, but you are seeing the Jets willing and almost like gung ho to finish checks in moments where the puck is gone. And oftentimes the puck is gone and cleanly gone to another Golden Knight. And what's happening is it's leading to constant easy zone entry, constant 3-on-2 rushes, constant opportunity that's putting a banged up and not very good defense, or at least the defensive unit that's left for the Jets, isn't all that good. They're not doing well enough dealing with this physicality. You go back to game one, the only game the Jets got out physical, it's because the Golden Knights were running themselves out of play. Yep. The Jets have tried to bring a playoff intensity through hitting, and the Golden Knights have done what like a Muay Thai fighter does and just flipped it right around and used it directly against them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think you're making a really
jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. No, and I think you're making a pretty accurate comparison here. And I mean, game one was pretty bananas. Game two was kind of in the same boat in terms of the hits, like especially like there was 137 hits in game two or something.
Yeah, and T-Mobile skews a little towards hits are everything, but yeah, like it was definitely teams trying to beat each other up. That's normal at the beginning of playoff series.
Throughout the course of this series, the Jets have been out of position more often. You could classify them as running around. Yes, and their puck management has not been as good as Vegas's for the most part.
Not even close for the past 8 periods. Not even close, or 10 because there's been overtimes.
You know, and that's where I think if you're Vegas and you're just getting going in the playoffs, and every team's guilty of this, Ken. This isn't a fault of the Golden Knights, but you look at that first game and you're like, you're so amped up. That you just and even it bleeds into game 2 or 3 for some of these series. You're just so amped up, you can't help yourself, right? You just have to put your foot in the ground, put your foot down, and say, "This is it. We're going to do this." One team that has not been able to control themselves, Minnesota. Okay, Foligno got tossed the other night because he just couldn't help himself yet again. Like they know they're a heavy team. Gotta play heavy. He need him. There's no way around it.
Yeah, I don't think he's trying to do that. It's a penalty. It's a trip. It's clear. I don't think he needs to get tossed in 5 minutes. Nonetheless, I'm completely with you that they are doing everything in their power to be the heavier, thicker, more physical team, and the stars are figuring it out and jiu-jitsuing them.
And that's the thing with me is that like the Golden Knights aren't a team that you're going to bully around. I don't think. Like, even though we've said this a lot this year, like, where's the grit? Where's the sandpaper? Where's the toughness? Like, I think you've actually seen a lot of that from the team here in playoffs. Like, in terms of just hard on pucks at all times. I've been impressed with that. And, like, we always talk about underappreciated guys, man. Like, dude, like, you know, maybe for me in this series might be the best guy right now. I think McNabb's been so good, man. Like he's
banged up though.
I know, but like that's what I mean, getting through that, and unheralded guys that bring a toughness level that you don't always you see it once in a while when he crushes somebody, but his heaviness is always there. So
yeah.
I don't think Winnipeg's going to out heavy the Golden Knights. I think then Winnipeg would have to outskill the Golden Knights, and without Morrissey, without Ehlers or Perfetti, like Scheifele, they don't have it. So their only hope is to try to go out and crash and bang. And
I thought their plan at the beginning, which was like, let's be heavy on the forecheck, let's challenge their exits, and let's make it so that they're not passing out of the zone, was a good plan, and a plan that has worked against the Golden Knights this season. But when it became clear that they were going to have a hard time keeping that up, especially with the limitations in their lineup, all of a sudden they're the team giving up all these controlled entries. And that's where you're going to have to start leaning on your skill. And they just have not done that. They've just continued to try to bang away, and it's heading the wrong direction clearly for them. The question for us becomes, how good are the Golden Knights, and how much are what they're doing is just counteracting what the Jets are doing? Like, are we feeling that much better about the Golden Knights at this moment? I'm not sure of that.
Yeah, I mean, you got to win your series first before you start to look beyond.
No question.
I feel good about the Golden Knights. I'll say that. I mean, I thought, geez, before the big comeback in Game 2, right? Game 2 was the comeback game, wasn't it? I'm
Game
trying to
3
lose track.
was the big comeback.
Game 3, I
was
apologize.
the big comeback.
So yeah, Game 3, I tweet Vegas. This is it. Vegas is coming. They look great. The PP's improved. Like, they're back, you know. And holy shit, Winnipeg turns it around, and all of a sudden it's 4-4. So
Right.
That's playoffs to me. I did think that Vegas was in charge of Game 4. I thought they were in good charge of most of Game 3 until they managed to come back. So,
and they did all right in overtime too. The 2 overtimes.
Yeah. So, you know, to me,
it's a tough environment.
Yeah. I feel good about this team right now. I'll say that. Like, I really, especially like the power play, man. I've seen things that make me feel a lot better about it. You know, and both. I do. Like, I think that Jack's at least trying to shoot. I think that, like, they had, I get all these games mixed up, but first power play was really strong. And then the second one did absolutely Game 4. And then the second one did absolutely nothing in game. Right.
And then they scored.
But the first one was just like, man, they're moving it. They're shooting. Like, Stone's low. Like, I felt really good about it. And then absolutely nothing in the second, but Carlson scores right at the end of it. Right.
So my issue with that first power play is the Jets were doing what we were just talking about on that power play, which is just running themselves out of position. And Vegas was just quicker on that power play. The second one, the Jets sat right back in their diamond, and Vegas could do nothing. Yet again, they struggled to enter. They were doing nothing in the zone. To me, the 2 goals, the first one is a fan by Pietrangelo that ends up leading to a wide open tap in. That's in no way
repeatable. Play from like Stevie there too, though.
Like, what else is he going to do with that play?
No, I get it. I get it.
That's the only thing you can do.
Yeah,
like, it's the only thing that I guess I can be pumped for Stevenson on that play is, like, I would have been curled up in the fetal position if I was in his spot watching Pietrangelo about to rip a shot. He just watched him fan on it and looked right at the puck, where the other guy's freaking out, thinking he's going to get hit by it. But his back is to the goal. He's got, I mean, it's on his forehand to give a pass off to Eichel. Like, you're going to do that. And the second one, to me, yes, I'm happy Eichel takes the shot. Yes, I'm happy it goes in. And I do think there is something to be said about the traffic in front of Hellebuck on that pass. But that shot, if you put an X on where it went into the goal, like
right in the middle,
it was directly in the middle of the goal, like maybe a little bit low. It's above, it's even like above 5-hole. I still don't fully understand how it went in. Nonetheless, it did. The power play to me is not great. The penalty kill is not getting the job done either.
Don't you feel like the power play is better though, Ken? Like, I'm not looking for world beat.
Really. I really don't. I still think they're dusting it off. I still think it's not moving. I think that they're showing a little bit of something here with the one unit that actually did score last time. They're taking Kessel off of it, and they're putting Barbashev, and they're moving some pieces around. Like, I think there's some further proof that, and this is a good penalty kill team. I get that. But at the same time, the Golden Knights are not making it all that difficult on them. And there's been a number of power plays. They had 2 in overtime. Like, we could very easily, if Dylan DeMello or Dylan Samberg doesn't smack one off of Barbashev's feet and it goes right out to Amadio, or if that Dubois shot goes in earlier, we're talking about 2 power plays in overtime that were not scored that put them behind the 8 ball 2-1 in this series. And here we are coming back, and who knows? I think now, looking at what the injury situation is, the Golden Knights are in pretty darn good shape, even if this series is 2-2. Like, I don't feel that at risk here. I don't feel that at harm at the moment. I guess I feel a little bit at risk that it's possible that I'm going from the rink to the airport, tomorrow morning or whatever at midnight, because my flight's at 7 to Fargo if we end up going there. So we'll see. Assuming I can get a ticket on that flight, we'll see. Nonetheless, I'm a little nervous about that. It's one game and this is hockey, but I just don't see the Jets being in that position. And that brings me to the next question, which is like, if you go back through this series, at the moment the Jets lost Morrissey, which was at the beginning of game 3, he was gone after 1 minute and 42 seconds. The Golden Knights have been the better team. They've started to control the play more often. It's been more of their game. We think back, yes, third period was awesome in game 2. That game's tied. They get a fourth line goal in the second period. That game is tied at 2. The Golden Knights win a period. They tie the series. If the Jets were fully healthy and the Jets had Nick Ehlers in the game, Mark Scheifele in the game, Josh Morrissey in the game, and they're not filling this in with Axel Janssen-Fjällby and Logan Stanley, who were both horrific in game 4. Yeah. Without those players, we're looking at a much different series. We're looking at much more what we're seeing from Boston and Florida, or the closeness of the Edmonton series, or like New York, New Jersey, who are close. I think this would have been a very, very close series. And the Golden Knights are just simply taking advantage of a disintegrating team to their credit. To their credit. I don't think the Golden Knights are playing bad. There's a lot I like. I don't want to go completely overboard as we set up for what's potentially a series against Edmonton or LA, where that's going to be a completely different animal.
It is, because Winnipeg really right now has 2.5 forward lines, realistically speaking. I mean,
one and a half forward lines to me. One.
Yeah, I think
the second line is the Mesnikov, Wheeler, and Mason Appleton. Like, who's even on it?
Yeah. I mean, I like
Morgan
Lowry
Barron
an awful lot. He's punching above his weight now. So
he's been very good. He's been very good. Yeah. He's the reason that there is
a player I'd love to have on my team. I'd love to have Lowry.
He's been very good.
But that D, like, there's no, like, they don't have a single puck mover on that D core right now from today's game. Like, Pionk used to kind of fill that airspace for that club. This season has not been like that for him. Morrissey took his place. Schmidt, man, as much as I like
Neil Pionk has 6 assists.
What's that?
Neil Pionk has 6 assists in this series. 6.
But he's the only guy from the back.
That's my point. Is like you're saying that Neil Pionk isn't even a true 2023 NHL playoff puck mover. I'm completely agreeing with you. He has 6 assists.
Right. Yes, and so that's where, and I'm looking through it right now to make sure I'm right on this. But like, yeah, it is. It's Pionk or nobody, right? Like, Schmidt's got 2 points, DeMo's 2 points. Like, that's largely who it goes through. But Pionk's also -6, man. Like, you're riverboat gambling, and so it's just not there. And like,
that's correct.
Schmidt's. It's funny with Schmidt. Like, I thought with Vegas he was awesome, and these last couple of years just haven't been
bad since
they haven't been good, And I don't know whether that's. Like, dude, what? Like, honestly, 30 seconds left when he had zero patience with that puck. Like, none. He just like whiffed trying to throw it at the net. It blew me away because that was a moment.
To be fair, Golden Knights did the same thing in game 3. They, Pietrangelo rushes out to play that thing. He overextends instead of actually skating, pushing the puck to them, and they get the goal. Like, it happens. It is what it is. Pietrangelo's made some weird plays, but he's been awesome.
He made one pass through the neutral zone that, and I got to go back on our text thread with one another. I think it was game 4 that I just went.
I think it was.
Yeah, here it is. $1:30 left. What is Petro doing? He threw one right down the middle. I just went, no, what are you doing? No. But I tell you what, that goal, the airborne goal that Winnipeg scored in game 4.
It's their second goal, power play goal in game 4. Yeah.
I've never seen anything like that in my life.
It was weird.
That puck went airborne. I think it went off of Petro's stick.
It did.
But that thing went up and perfectly saucered. It was hovering like a goddamn UFO, Ken.
The overhead camera of it is wild.
It's insane. It's perfect. Yeah. The perfect revolution. And the fact that nobody caught it, they all whiffed on it, that everybody's playing center field and nobody could catch that thing that was the shittiest goal. Like,
I mean, jumping is a poor decision there. And like,
why? Right?
No one, because no one can play the puck until it comes down. Yeah. Like, I get it. We all look at that
and think the moment you see it, you feel like you've got to go for it right away. So patience is out the window. But everybody played that wrong.
It is what it is. That one doesn't bother me. I do think there is an interesting kind of angle to their power play, which is that once Scheifele and Morrissey are both out, it's pretty clear that they have two real weapons. One is Wheeler taking that shot from the wing, and the other one is Pionk ripping it up the middle, and then they have two layers of tips. The Golden Knights made the decision that they wanted to take the tips away from Pionk and let Brossoit stop that Wheeler shot, and he didn't. So the other one's the same shot. They challenge it up, and it ends up in the goal. So it's like, you might want to look at that. I think the higher pressure style is going to be better for their penalty kill. I think they got to stop worrying necessarily about what the other team's doing and just pressure. Granted, we could be talking a lot about a penalty kill in the next a week from now when we're playing Edmonton here.
Yeah, that's for sure. Here's a great comment in the chat over here from Brandon. They're thinking that I think the electromagnetic waves from the ad boards made the puck float for a minute, and that's a direct reference to the article earlier this year when
it was pretty wild.
Thompson had that puck bounce 13 feet in the air off the ice and over him, just nothing he could do.
So,
by the way, Thompson's not skating.
Yeah, he's not going to play the rest of the year.
I still think it's something that Hill's on the bench and they're straight up health bombing Jonathan Quick. That's all. Like, I'm surprised it's there. But
making the right decision. They're making the right decision here. Like they saw what they saw. They're making the right decision. It's tough. It's a good decision. I think they got him late enough in the season that it's doable. And you're right. But
I also think. I mean, that was Hill was there all year, man. Simple as that. He was there all year. Yeah. And he played really well.
And then who knows what's going to happen if they pull somebody, if we end up in a position where they do play Edmonton. There's going to be a game where they give up 6. And what are we going to be looking at that point? Granted, the further that Brossoit goes, if they win tomorrow, all of a sudden he's going to have 4 straight wins. It's going to be awfully difficult to get him out of there anytime soon. You're going to be leaning back on that. So I think it's Brossoit's job with the possibility of one other guy getting another game. It would probably be Hill. I don't see a path for Thompson to get back in there. But I do want to talk about the lineup and the way that the Golden Knights have set this lineup up, right? Like, I think that there's a cool aspect to this lineup that is, I would say, unlike anything we've ever seen in a history of a Golden Knights lineup. And that is that there's 2 different, like, choose your own adventure paths that Cassidy can go down. He chooses the same one to start every game, which is there's 3 sets of pairs. There's Smith and Carlson, there's Eichel and Marchessault, and there's Stevenson and Stone. And with each group, they each have one winger that is expected to be dragged along by the pair. That's the plan. And the hope is there's no matchup that we can't deal with offensively or defensively. All of them have enough talent in the pair that they can generate on their own and then drag along the other guy and find some goals from Matteo, find some goals from Howden, find some goals for Barbashev. Hasn't happened for Kessel yet. All of these options are there, and what's been great is you see it on the road, and again, it's important to note that on the road, things disintegrated for the Jets. They played an entire game without Morrissey and then an entire game without Morrissey and Scheifele. And so they were panicking, trying to get more offense, moving Scheifele into the middle. He then goes out. Now they're in complete shambles. They could not get the matchups they wanted. I don't think we've seen truly the impact that this 3-pair lineup is going to have. However, what it does offer, which is really cool and really unique, is there are 2 lines that they can immediately go to in any situation, offensively or defensively, that have played together and have had massive success, both analytically and actual goals wise. And that is Eichel, Stevenson, Stone, and then the misfit line. And he's done it in overtime. And I think moving forward, this is something we're going to see is when does he pull the ripcord? Cassidy, I'm talking about. When does he go to that and say, okay, this is the moment. I want to go to that right now. I've got 2 offensive zone draws or 1 offensive zone draw. Let's go. And I think that lineup really brings you something where you can limit the minutes of the bigger players at different times and immediately have a much different look at any point. And it's really, really a cool wrinkle that I think is going to come up huge as we move forward into next round against whichever team it happens to be. I think it will work out better against Edmonton than LA, but I think it's a good option either way.
We saw Barbashev go up with Eichel and Marchessault for a bit as well. So
Barbashev go down off of them all the way down to the 4th line. First time we've seen that all year too. So that's what's nice is that you can switch it and it's easy to plug any of these players. Like, oh, Brett Howden, go up to the 1st line now. Amadio 3rd line. Amadio 2nd line. Like all of it doesn't really matter because they're all basically 1A, 1B, 1C or 2A, 2B, whatever, right? That's what the lineup has basically become. And then that 4th line, that's pretty good.
When you're playing a team like Edmonton or LA, I think you're right that you're going to see the top lines be stacked a little heavier. And I think with Carrier coming back, it allows you to do that. I would expect to see Carrier walk Holzhar together in playoffs. I think that'll be the line. I don't think Carrier is going to come right back in the line and play up the lineup, and play up. And that's what's going to be that we talked about this at the beginning. This is not an easy decision. Because
not at all.
Ken, who were the 2 players directly in the crosshairs of being healthy scratched?
When now?
Carrier is back in the lineup.
Well, there's 4. I think there's 4 players directly in the crosshairs.
Okay. Well, I'm curious who your 4 are then.
And I'm going to write about it. I've actually written half of the article. It's going to publish it sometime later tonight. There's 5 options. There's 4 players, and then there's the option that I think they should take, which they're not going to take, which is saying, sorry, Will, we've won 3 games in a row. You should not play at the moment. Sorry. The 4 options are Amadio, Howden, Kolazar, and Kessel.
You nailed the first 2 and the only 2 that I think are a real option. I think Amadio and Howden are the 2 in the crosshairs. I don't see Phil coming out, even though I think that would be prudent. And Kolesar, no chance he comes out. So this is going to be tough because Howden is obviously both Howden and Amadio have become, I think they're big Cassidy guys. I think he thinks a lot of them. I think when we joke around and when I jokingly say Plan E, it's just because Cassidy called Amadio Plan E, and I think it's funny.
Well, Stevenson calls him that now too, and a lot of the players.
Right, that's what I mean, right? Like it's just
caught on. Like
it's
you know what's crazy about Plan E? You know what's unbelievable about that? Do you remember who Plan A was?
Oh, this was supposed to be on the right side with those guys, wasn't it?
With Stevenson and Stone.
It wasn't.
It's
Kessel,
on the left side. It's on the left side. It was not Kessel. He was actually Plan Kessel. D. Plan C was Paul Cotter.
Was Riley Smith
Plan B? Nope. Plan B was Jack Eichel.
Yeah.
And Plan A was Brett Howden.
Okay, that's right.
Plan A was Brett Howden was like direct line speed, get to the goal, take this opportunity. That was the initial plan. And what's wild is here we are 80 games later, and we're going back to those 6 games at the beginning of the season where that was Plan A. And it was okay. It wasn't great. And here we are. This dude bangs in that huge goal in the first period. I thought it was a little fortunate. You know, there's been discussions on that. You rip a shot into a guy's leg and then it lands directly on your stick again. Like, that's fortunate to me. Nonetheless, he did bury that shot.
Thanks to Stevenson for pushing the D back and creating that space, though.
For sure, but he creates the space, and then what does he do with the puck? He rips it into the guy that you just took the space from. Like, whatever, it happened. He's been pretty good. I don't see it's. How do you take out the guy who scored the game-winning goal in Game 4 and the guy who scored 2 goals in Game 3 and the guy who scored 2 goals in Game 4? How do you do that when one guy hasn't been playing very well? Kessel has been bad, but he hasn't been great.
Oh, I'm on board with that. But I think this is a classic case of we have too many guys. It's playoffs. You're just going to have to sit, and we're sorry, but this is what it's going to
See,
take.
should that not be Carrier? Like, why is that not just Carrier for
Well,
now? And then if you lose it, then go to him in Game 6 and Game 7.
that's what I'm not sure of, Ken, because you don't have to have Carrier if you think you could buy him a little bit more time to get healthy. Now,
Which
but
you
this
should
again,
be
we
able to.
don't know health level. If he's at 100%, he's going to play.
Doesn't matter.
So
I disagree. He should not
you're
play.
right.
Like, it's the Michael Bunting thing all over again. Don't play him.
Bunting is
You're
a healthy
winning.
scratch. He is a healthy
Correct.
scratch. So to me, Carrier,
He'll go back in. He'll get his time.
Yeah, I know. But this isn't about rewarding players, okay? Like, I like how Howden plays. I think his skating is a big plus, but I think Will Carrier is a step up from Brett Howden, even though Howden had played up higher in the lineup. I don't see Barbashev coming out because he offers an option on the power play, and he's good on kill when he needs to be if you use him for that. I don't see Barbashev coming out. I don't see Kolasar coming out, and Phil's not coming out.
Barbashev actually took Kessel's spot on the power play today,
so
which indicates that it's potentially Phil that's coming out.
So how about this? If that's the case, I would applaud big time because I think that's the right call, honestly. But how many times this year have we thought Amadio was kind of like in danger of being healthy scratched? I don't think he gets healthy scratched.
He's gotten healthy scratched. He got healthy scratched before his little run the first time, but I wouldn't.
It happened like for one game.
I absolutely wouldn't.
So I don't know.
I wouldn't.
I mean, geez, Teddy Bluger's still sitting there, and he's the greatest penalty killer on the planet and everything else. But they're deep, dude. That's the bottom line. They're deep. And
they've got a bunch of options here that can all fit into a lineup of what it's currently set up as. Like, what's nice is there's not a lot of I'm trying to think of the options, and Amadio is probably the one that I would say, but there's not a lot of Brendan Leipzigs and Tomas Hikas and Brandon Peary's where it's like, okay, well, I cannot potentially put them on the fourth line. You have options like Amadio can play on the first line with Eichel. Amadio can play on the first line with Eichel. Howden can play on the first line with Eichel, or they can either play on the fourth line. Maybe not as Amadio as much, but like Barbashev, play him anywhere you want.
Anywhere.
I think it's tough, and in many ways, I understand that this sounds ridiculous and unfair because the dude has a goal and 2 big-time assists, including the game-winning assist in Game 3. He has the only assist in Game 1 for the opportunity. I think Barbashev has been bad this entire series. I think he's doing exactly what I have not liked from the Jets, which is running himself out of plays to make hits. I don't think he's been good. I don't think he's been impactful. I don't think he's helping the fourth line. I don't think he's going to help going up. And to me, he's the guy who I would take out at the moment if I had to. Personally, if I'm the head coach and you tell me Will Carrier is ready to play, I say, good job. That's awesome. I'll see you in Game 6 or Game 1. I'm not playing him.
It's funny how we're talking about players that came in late to the team, and I think there actually could be some validity to that. Like Bluger's out. What if Barbashev's out? Nick Cousins got healthy scratched in the same way when he came too.
Tomas Tatar.
Yeah. So I don't know. I've seen Barbashev do really good things in playoffs, but I do agree with you that it hasn't been to the extent it needs to be. And he's just so versatile, though, and that's what makes it like he's more valuable in a lineup than Kessel is in some ways. To me,
and like Vince is right in that he is a good forechecker, and there's value to it. The problem is his forechecking is over the top, hitting guys. And the one time that he didn't do it, and again, Vincent says he created that goal. I don't think he did anything. It's the one time he didn't run himself out of the play. He's turning around and the guy fires the puck off of his foot. I guess he's in the right spot. Way to go. But like, I'm not playing a guy because he was in the right spot one time in double overtime. Like, I'm sorry. I personally, there's no Carrier. It is what it is. You haven't played for 3 months, 2 months, whatever it's been. We've won 3 games in a row. We're in a great position here. Do not change something right now when they're going to come in here and they're under it right now. Like, the Jets know they're in big, big trouble right now. Do not give them any possibility don't change a damn thing. Like, because you have to change 3 lines to get Carrier in, right? At least 2.
Okay, we've both voiced our opinions on this, and I can't wait to see who trots out there, because
let's get one more opinion on it.
Let's do that.
We have another member of this show. We're going to bring him up. Jason, what's your opinion on said argument? I'm assuming with those headphones you've been just listening, or maybe you have nothing on. Maybe you have music. I don't know. This is the moment where you're
no, I have nothing. Talk. But listen, Carey on the bench. You can't hear him?
I can hear you. We're just like, I think your internet.
Barbashev, he's playing. Carey. Okay, I'll try it again. Carey on the bench. You don't need him in the lineup. You've done well without him. You don't really need him. Let him rest. Mike, I think you said it earlier. Give him some more time to rest and then get ready for round 2. Also, you got to keep Barbashev in the lineup, because imagine having all 3 acquisitions not at all contributing in the playoff. That's not a good sign for the front office. And also, I think Amadio and have well for Cassidy, and I think he rewards them. So I would say Carrier.
You were going to say something before I brought Jason up. Yeah. Like, what were you? Where were you going?
No, I honestly can't remember. But I think this is kind of a fascinating discussion, because honestly, this game, please don't take this the wrong way, this game it's 3-1 in a series, right? So you're looking at this kind of in some ways like, can we just get through this game and get a win? And I don't mean that like in a negative context at all. I mean, you just saw it with, like, Boston couldn't close out Florida tonight. Who's going to close out teams at a 3-1 game, series lead? Can Toronto do it? It's real. You want to put your best foot forward, but you also don't want to risk.
And Vegas has struggled here, right?
Yeah,
like Vegas has struggled in this situation. Minnesota, Vancouver, San Jose.
I know, and that's the hard part for me with not playing Carriers. Is it's like, do you really want to kind of? I don't want to say tiptoe. Like I said, I don't really think we just need to get through this. Like, but you're in that really weird spot where you feel like you got 2 cracks at it here. You got 3-1, you got 3-2 in a series. Those are your 2 cracks, because you get to 3-3 into a game 7, all of a sudden it's a big holy shit. Mm-hmm. And now you have no momentum on your hands, right? So on that one hand, when you're trying to close out a series, man, I want Carrier in that lineup. But on the other hand, he hasn't played. He's coming off injury. We've got a ass load of guys that can do this job. And not knowing where he's at in the recovery from that injury is so hard for us, because my brain is saying you shouldn't play that guy. You should just let him rest this next one and make sure and see if he can get through it. That's what my brain's telling me. Mm-hmm. But I'm also thinking you got Kelly McCrimmon looking at the situation going, you can't give him life. We need our best lineup on the ice. We need to win this immediately now. If he's ready, he's going in.
Is he their best lineup, having been out as long as he has been out? Like, we saw that with Mark Stone. Like, is he going to suddenly come in? Like, I would be fine if someone was bad. If someone wasn't good enough, okay. But, like, you're going to take Brett Howden out? Like, what are you, nuts? Guy's been a wrecking ball. Like, he's been awesome. He's doing great.
I hate dude. And that's just the hardest part. Like, I wish I had somebody to shit on here.
You don't, and that's why, to me, leave it. I do want to note on this, because I've seen this comment quite a bit. This is not accurate. The Golden Knights have clinched actually their last 2 series at home. The last 2 times the Golden Knights have won a series, it was at home. Game 7 against Minnesota was at home, and then the Game 6 against Colorado was at home. But let's go to the next series, the one that, because I think we're going to have some, we'll have plenty to talk about if they were to actually go ahead and blow this. But I think as the Golden Knights fans are looking at these games, Edmonton leads 3-2. The series has been phenomenal, like absolute joy to watch every single second of that series. I wish we would get to see more of it, because I think our games will overlap. Hopefully we don't have to deal with that on Saturday. I understand what Edmonton has done. I think everyone understands the value of like how good they can be. What do you like about the Kings, and what's kind of been maybe are you more concerned about the Kings now than you were going in because of what they've done so far to Edmonton?
Not a bit. That team is good. Both those teams are damn good. The Kings have surprised me that basically they've managed to stay afloat with Fiala missing for some of this and also playing at less than 100%, no doubt in my mind. That surprised me a bit because he's such a key component to their team. And I don't think Korpisalo's stolen them any games. He's been fine, but he hasn't stolen games. What frightens me with LA is just how well they check with their top two centermen. Kopitar and Danault for me are terrifying. I think they're two of the few guys that can cancel out any team. They've largely 5-on-5 canceled out McDavid. They haven't been able to cancel out Draisaitl. Draisaitl's been the best player in the world here in the last week. He's been unbelievably good. So LA is a scary team. They're deep on the blue line. I don't think their scoring is what it needs to be. They're a 3-line team. I still don't think that fourth is where it needs to be. But God, Alex Iafallo is playing third line, and that guy's way better than a third line player. Like, he's sick, man. I think he's awesome. So I think that the matchup between LA and Vegas would be an unbelievable series, because I think that they're actually built kind of similar in how they have structure in their depth in positions. I think they have good goaltending, and I think Vegas at this point you can say has gotten good goaltending. By the way, that Wheeler goal, for everybody, they want to give that shot to Wheeler. Brossoit didn't adjust his feet. That's why there was so much net to shoot at. When Wheeler pulled the puck about 6-8 inches outside in, Brossoit's feet were set. That's what gave up space blocker side. I can guarantee you, he looked at that and he went, "Oh, I lost my angle." You know what I mean? So it's a learning thing for Brossoit, right? So I would caution people to look at that goal and think, okay, I bet he learned from that and he'll know what's coming next time. But in any case, Edmonton, geez, I don't like an Edmonton matchup for Vegas at all. I like an LA matchup because I think it'd be a hell of a series, but I also think they have a better route and better chance of going past in LA than in Edmonton.
I agree. I've been impressed with LA again. I think you're seeing the depth, and I think the depth is kind of why they were able to get out to that 2-1 lead in the series and then push it to 3-0 and look like they were headed towards potentially winning the series completely. I agree with you that Danault and Kopitar will really change the view of what people think about what Eichel's doing. Because he just won't have as good a series. He won't have as impactful of series, and he's not McDavid and Draisaitl. And so it's just not going to go as well. I'm concerned a little bit about Edmonton slowly figuring this out here. They have had a lot of offensive zone time. They've been dealing with a team that is packing the middle a little bit. They're dealing with some really good lockdown centers. They're dealing with depth. And as this thing has gone on, I understand that they were in the shit there for a second. They're figuring it out. They're becoming more difficult to play against. Their depth is figuring out how to score. They're figuring out what to do with when they have those guys on the ice and when Draisaitl's not on the ice. And I look at LA and I say, I just think playing LA is different. I just don't think you want to take too much out of how a team looks when they're playing LA and then compare it to how they're going to look when they play you, whether that's Vegas or Minnesota, Boston, whoever, doesn't matter. So McDavid's not even doing much. Draisaitl's been out of his mind. I think between the two of them, you probably get more McDavid, less Draisaitl in the next series. They scare me a lot. They are very, very, very good. And as I said earlier, the Golden Knights, I think, are going to be a little overinflated here based on the fact that they're going to hopefully win this series in 5 and put themselves in a good position with all this rest. That's going to matter. I like that benefit. I like that a lot. But that team does concern me. That being said, there are some areas you can see. And if Vegas's 3-line group that 3-line top 9 can continue to would be able to hold down the top 6 of Edmonton, the depth scoring is going to be an option to give the Golden Knights a chance. It's going to be a very difficult series. And I caution people to say, like, look, Edmonton's not going to look like that against Vegas. They're going to look a little bit different against Vegas. I think it's going to be more of an open style of game. And I think they're even better at that than what they've been to this point.
You think that which team is better?
I think Edmonton's better. I think Edmonton's better than what we've seen to this point. And that's because I think playing against the Kings, to borrow the phrase from the Oilers coach about Desharnais, it's like playing through seaweed. It's swimming through seaweed. It's hard. It's annoying. It doesn't really work.
There's a good point.
You got to be careful here.
Yeah, like Christopher in the comments makes a good observation though. Like Skinner has been okay. Yeah, I haven't loved Skinner's game. I've liked Brossoit a lot more at this point. So I don't see goaltending as a strong point for Edmonton. I see it as something that they're just trying to outrun a little bit and hope that Skinner finds that intensity that has to be there in playoffs, much like how Shesterkin had to find it for the Rangers last year. I think Skinner's kind of in that same boat, but I mean, Edmonton, it's funny because
go ahead.
Yeah, I'll finish up real quick. Like Edmonton picked up Ekholm and he was just so good down the stretch in the regular season. And he's actually had a couple of rough ones here in playoffs. So we'll see, man. Like I love that series between Edmonton and LA is just so good. And I got to cover it in person last year and it was just sick to be between those benches. Like, and notice I didn't get any time this year on TNT. I'm out of sight, out of mind. So it looks like TV's probably done for me, which really that's a bummer. It's really what my passion was, but I also am not willing to move from St. Louis, and that kind of puts a kibosh on a lot of things. But you know what, man?
Makes it tough.
I got to live my dream.
They'll figure it out eventually. They will figure it out eventually. I agree with Cody. TNT's mistake. They will figure it out eventually.
Hey, this is nothing against TNT. They've got a great crew, man. I think the world of them, and that it's just, you're going to hire guys who are. I shouldn't say guys. You're going to hire people, because thankfully TNT's hired capable people that have been on air and getting reps at it, and I haven't. Simple as that. So, no harm, no foul, no hard feelings. It just kind of sucks. I missed it. It's just how it is.
This would be awfully nice, Nick, to grow SinBin to 1 million subscribers. Heck, all the people listening, please subscribe, because we don't have that many subscribers on YouTube. We could use more. The last thing I want to talk about is one of the biggest topics of this series going in, and I think it was rightfully so because of the way that the Jets played the entirety of the season, is it possible that Connor Hellebuyck steals the series from the Golden Knights? Is it possible that Connor Hellebuck's just so good that the Golden Knights are a team that have got goalied in the past? Are they going to have this series stolen by Connor Hellebuyck? That has in many ways not happened and not even looked like it's close to happening. I don't even think he's had a great period yet in this series. And I think the Golden Knights deserve a ridiculous amount of credit for that. I don't think it's Connor Hellebuyck playing poorly. I think it's the Golden Knights playing great. My question to you is why and what are they doing differently that they're making him look like a normal goalie and not one of the best 3 or 4 in the world?
Well, they've gotten some lateral plays, but they've also gotten a whole lot of tips in front and bodies there, and quick plays and tight. That's we're talking about broadcasting, and I nearly punched my TV yesterday or 2 days ago when immediately after Barbashev scored, which everybody thought was Theodore at first. The first replay I saw it happen. I mean, it was immediate.
Yes.
Nothing drives me crazier than the play-by-play guy going, he's going to want that one back. Like, shut up. Let the color guy make the judgment call. Let the guy who's actually played the game make the call instead of you, the play-by-play guy, saying a goalie's going to want that one back. Because Connor Hellebuyck didn't want that one back. He knew it deflected off a stick, and there was no way for him to adjust quick enough. I hate that. It's such bullshit when that happens. Anyway, that's kind of been a microcosm. Like, think about like Eichel's tip and goal, Barbashev's tip. Like, they've just had a lot of They've had grease, but they've also managed to move the puck laterally on and off the blade. Like even Eichel's couple goals have both been right in the middle of the cage that he's one-timed home. And guess what? He just got rid of it fast, man.
Yep.
And like even when Stevenson gave it to him on the tee off of that broken play, he just hammered it. He didn't grab it and wait. Like he just hammered it. So I think that's been it. Like if you want to beat Hellebuck, you gotta make him move. He doesn't have great feet. He reads the play incredibly well. You have to outpace him. Even Carlson's goal, there was enough deception on the initial pass that Hellebuck dropped early. Marshy had the whole net to shoot at, and he went back to Carlson. It was the weirdest goal from that standpoint.
Very odd, yeah.
And I bet people in Winnipeg, I knew right away, they were like, it's goalie interference. Nope. Hellebuck made contact in the white ice with Carlson. No chance it's goalie interference. It was the right call in that way. So, yeah, Hellebuck reads the puck well. He doesn't get beat clean often. He has been beat clean. Every goalie gets beat clean. But the majority of it has been they have been good about getting bodies at the front, not just screens. You can't just get screens on Hellebuck. He's very good through traffic. You have to get sticks on pucks and tips to make that happen. And you got to move it laterally fast. And like even the rush goal. Think about Stone's rush goal. Yeah, think about Stone's rush goal. Hellebuck isn't a great skater again, so rushes can be hard for him. Stone's on the back door. Hellebuck's on his ass because he ended up reaching for it with no backward flow. So Hellebuck can't, at 3-1 right now, Hellebuck can't steal this series from here on out. It's not going to happen. So they've nullified the greatest X factor that Winnipeg has. Kudos to them. Because honestly, they're not going to see another goalie like that until they run into Dallas, if that's who they eventually would end up playing at some point, if you ask me. I think he's the only other goalie left that's scary.
In the conference, yeah. He's the only other goalie in the conference that's really a concern. So earlier in the show, and usually you do story time at the end of the shows, and I'm fine if you have one, we can do that, and I'll tee you up when I'm done here. But you asked me about something off ice that happened, and I just thought of it. I remember what happened. Winnipeg's an interesting place. Winnipeg is not the brightest place, especially coming from Las Vegas. I didn't see a ton of the sun. It was, it's a little drab. Everything's kind of a bit gray, and you can tell that the snow has beat down the city over the course of the last 100 or whatever years, which was how old my hotel was. And shout out to the Marlboro. So we're sitting there. If anyone's ever been to Winnipeg, the rink is on Portage Street. I think it's pronounced Portage. Maybe it's Portage. I don't know. But there's
a French community in Winnipeg people don't know about. Descending from the Métis.
Yeah, so we're on Portage Street, across the street from Canadian Life Century. There is a bar called Brown's Social House, and Granger and I were sitting there watching a whole bunch of games on the day the Golden Knights were off, and he kind of all of a sudden he perks up. He's like, "Hey, look at that! Look out there!" I'm like, what is he talking about? I look across the street, and we're talking directly in front of Canada Life Center, right underneath the poster of Josh Morrissey. Maybe want to switch that one out at this point, but there's a fist fight going on right out in front of the rink. So the fist fight, one guy clearly got the better of the beginning of the fist fight. Bang, knocks the dude down onto his ass. He went to go get him, and the other dude, another guy there, kind of broke him up. But the guy who got knocked down, he was not thrilled with having been knocked down. So he decides, understanding that I ain't winning another fist fight, he's not going to engage again. He wants a weapon. He doesn't have a weapon on him, I'm assuming. Otherwise, he would have pulled it out. He wants to find a weapon. So he starts running all over the place, out into the middle of the street, jumping over the barriers, doing all this. And he finally gets down to where they had their street party. I believe it's Donald Street, if I'm not mistaken. And there are those huge wooden barriers that are orange and white, like the stripes on them, that are sitting on like the easels. He tried to pick that up and swing it at the guy, but he was not strong enough. So he dropped it when he was trying to swing it, possibly on his foot. I'm not sure. Then he ran to the middle of the road while there's traffic, just went out there, picked up a huge rock and chucked it at the guy. Ooh. And then ran away down the street. And that's the last we saw. And the other guy was furious after he threw the rock at him. So that's my off the ice Winnipeg story. No one tried to come after me, but we saw it was a pretty good scrap there.
So the first time I ever went to Vegas, I think I was 15 years old, and we were there for a roller hockey tournament, and that was at what is now the Las Vegas Ice Center. And maybe they've maybe changed
It's
the name
still
of it. I
that.
can't remember.
It's still
Yeah,
that.
that used to be out in like the desert, man, all by itself, and it was a roller arena. And we're downtown, and it's in front of the Flamingo, and this it was a taxi caravan, right? You know what I mean? A minivan taxi
Mm-hmm.
pulls up. These people spill out of it and fist fight. And this dude pumps the other guy, like knocks him out cold. And it was the first time I ever saw anybody get knocked out. And it's honestly terrifying to see because person hits the concrete, they go down, and
Could be dead. Yeah.
and literally this guy's girlfriend starts screaming, "You killed him! You killed!" And I'm just going, "Oh my God," I'm 14 or 15. And I'm like, "What did I just see? We got to get out of here." Like, I was terrified, man. Like, that was like a welcome to Vegas moment. I'd never seen anything like it, but it reminds me this time I was playing in Binghamton. And correct me if I've told this story before. I don't want to tell it again, but we had a guy who was a tough guy in bingo, and he had a habit of wearing really small t-shirts. Okay. Does this story ring a bell?
I think you have told this, that in the
Oh,
bar the guy
shoot.
kind of came up. Yeah.
There's a couple. Yeah, he knocked the guy out. But I
Yeah.
mean, we
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
several of those. We had a couple of those moments in Binghamton. So I'll flip this and I'll tell another story that I always get reminded about it. Like, it's almost every time I see Biz on TV because Biz was there for part of this. We had Thanksgiving at my place in Portland, Maine, and cooked a turkey. Rookies cooked a turkey that couldn't have been drier than the bottom of a boot. It was terrible. But some of the guys had the presence of mind to get into the canoes and the boats that came with the house I was renting on the river that runs out to the ocean less than a half mile away. So as you can imagine, the tide comes in and out. Well,
and it's cold. It's November right now in Portland, Maine. It's
cold.
Freezing.
Yeah, some of the guys thought it'd be a great idea to get in the boats and go out to the, go take a little joyride. Well, they got marooned out there, like 60 yards across 60 yards across the water in a boat with a 30 rack of Busch Light. And they were just watching the water come in and come in. It's moving faster and faster. And they were out there for every bit of, I want to say 2 hours until the tide finally stalled. Because there's a point where the tide stalls, right? And it's not moving. Yep. And they had no choice but to wait it out, because if they tried to really start moving at that point, they would have taken them right out to sea. And I told them, like, you guys, this thing's going to start humming, fellas. I don't know if you want to do this. Oh, we're fine. We're fine. All right. I'm like, all right, I got the Coast Guard on speed dial. You really want to do it? Take the 30 rack, go have some fun. And I got to tell you, it's hilarious because we're just like yelling back and forth across the across the river. Because,
hey, morons,
how you feeling now, boys? You see in a couple hours.
Come on back in, fellas.
Yeah, myself and Eric Selleck and Biz, we made bacon at midnight on Thanksgiving, and then had practice the next morning. So that's a favorite memory because, one, nobody got hurt, but two, it's just so unique to Portland, Maine, and it was really funny. Just watching those guys.
I am happy to be back in Vegas, mainly because of the weather. And it was not even that cold up there, but at least what they told me. But it was cold for me. My lips are all chapped up from the wind and whatnot. Like, it was, I cannot handle it. Today I come back, it's 85 and sunny. I'm out there on the driving range. It was great. What a great place we live in. Shout out to the Jimerson Law Firm, who also lives here, for sponsoring every single episode of Goalie Interference this season. The good news is I think we absolutely have at least one more based on the schedule, which is always going to be good, I hope. And we have even a bunch more. Hopefully we're going towards episode like 35 this season, well into June. That is the plan. We're going to go as long, and then one after they're done, we'll keep going. So shout out to them. Mike, anything new on the site that you've been writing, Daily Faceoff?
I had a piece why I thought that the Oilers need to go back to Skinner for Game 5, which is what happened.
Super Stu. I liked that. I liked that. Super Stu. Yeah.
He looks like Daniel Plainview from my favorite movie, There Will Be Blood. And then I have a piece coming out tomorrow on Andrei Vasilevsky and why he's getting ripped high blocker side. Yep. And so I think there's something going on there. I can't pinpoint it exactly, but I got some statistical analysis of it. And just a piece on what's going, because it turned into a narrative the other night. Even on the broadcast, they started to pick up on ESPN. So, yeah, some good stuff coming out that way. And
Nice.
now we get to watch Seattle and the Avalanche this evening.
Yeah, it's a good game at the moment. Seattle looking like they might take control of the series here, up 2-1. I got one, like I told you about. I'm going to write about kind of the options with Carrier going in, kind of the pros and cons of each guy, how likely I think it all is to happen. It'll be a little bit cleaner than what we tried to do, and hopefully my internet works, unlike Jason's, which he gave his point and then dipped the fuck out of here, which was hilarious, but it also was... It happens. Sometimes the internet kind of sucks. That's it. Goalie interference is over for today. The Golden Knights are up 3-1. Come on, Golden Knights. I do not need to go back to Winnipeg. I'll go if we have to, but I don't need to. Just get it over with. Let's go. Take your break. Wait all the way till they have to wait for 4 days to play Game 6 over there. Let's get this thing over with. Cut that jet in half for once and for good, and get the hell out of there. That's it. Good night. See ya.